So hello, everybody. This is Captain George Williams, and since we're beginning the month of April, we've chosen Star Trek: The Final Frontier by Diane Carey to be this month's Star Trek discussion book. And we have, of course, chosen this book for April because it features Captain Robert April, who was the captain of the Enterprise before Captain Pike. And of course, his first officer was George Kirk, Captain Kirk's father. So if you've never listened to one of our podcasts in the past, the way that this works is in each episode, we'll do a close reading of one chapter every day for the entire month. And we'll include separate shows, of course, for the prologue and the epilogue. So this book will take 28 episodes to discuss. Each episode's about 60 to 90 minutes, so be prepared. I know that we don't always like to cover things that slowly, but we've only got a month to do this. So I, of course, will talk about the social and historical time period in which the book was written, which is 1988. So this is right at the beginning of Star Trek: The Next Generation, and how that affects the content of the book. And with me, as always, is Patrick, who is going to be talking about...
Wait a minute, George. Okay, George, that's enough.
What's wrong? Hold on a second. Well, you're not Patrick.
Exactly.
It's Christopher. Oh, am I in the wrong recording? Maybe that, okay, where's my calendar? Oh, that's this afternoon. Okay, well, this must be koha-US. Hold on a second. There we go, that's much better. All right, I'm ready for koha-US now.
All right. Well, that was...
All right, so actually, I'm not Captain George Williams. I'm George Williams. I'm the Next Search Catalog Coordinator for Northeast Kansas Library System. And
I'm Christopher Brandon with the Cooperative Information Network and the Coeur d'Alene Public Library. Today we're going to be talking about panels, search panels. This is something that was that I dreamed up back a couple years ago at an actual koha-US conference on my off time. And so we're going to be going through that today. But first, as always,
I remember you doing that. You didn't actually do a presentation on it, did you?
I did a brief show off on it. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
After I had come up with it, but first, let's talk about koha-US. Koha-US is a great website for our affiliates in the US, or even those that are not, that are curious about what we are doing. Koha-US.org is the website, and you will find all of our videos on the Learn from Koha-US page. Click on the Koha-US videos. It'll take you right there with all the great training videos that we've done so far, although there's a typo in there. I have 2 episode 13s. I need to fix that. It should say 14. We're up to 14 now. This one will be
very
15.
Unlucky.
Yeah. Yep. Anyways, so all of our great videos are on this page, and today, as I said, we are going to be talking about panels. What are panels, you may ask?
I've been calling them placards in our system, but panel works.
You know what? I've been calling them placards too. I don't know why I just started calling them panels.
Why not?
You threw me off today.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm getting prepared for this afternoon is all.
So panels, placards, whatever you prefer to call them. Maybe you just call them nuisances. I don't know. What are placards? Okay, let me give you a brief demonstration of this. I actually had it up here. When you do a search in the Koha catalog, and this is I've only designed this for the patron side. I don't annoy staff with this sort of thing. But when you do a search in the catalog, you get some great results. But we had some resources that weren't showing up because we don't catalog them like some of our databases. So for example, we have a news archive where we actually have local archives of old newspapers, and that does not come up. But if you search for newspaper. You'll get your regular results, but one of the results is going to be what we call the placard, and this is plugging our archives. It has more than newspapers, but one of the keywords that it comes up with is newspaper. I could do the singular or plural version of the word, uppercase or lowercase. I have not only news in there, or newspaper, but I have news. I have Quarterly Press, which is one of our papers that's in there. So
you're defining the keywords.
Yes, you can define the keywords. And so this is what we're going to be showing off today. It's still a work in progress. There's still some things I have to tweak out in it. And once we get the code on the library, by the time this video posts, hopefully I'll have some of that cleaned up a little bit more. I needed to revamp a few things just because of newer versions of Koha and trying to make things a little more dressier, and also the code more discernible as to where you plug things in. When I put it together originally, it was just thrown together, and I knew how to put things in there, but I wanted to make it a little bit more user friendly for everybody. So I've been tweaking the code a little bit, and I'm still finessing that just a little bit, but it'll be there by the time that this video is posted, and I'll have links to it in the Learn page.
I think code is a little bit like you're never going to be really finished with it. There's always something you can change. You can always change something in it.
Yeah.
But I like this. I like the logo. I like the way that it stands out. It's got the same background that you've got for your Overdrive, built-in Overdrive plug-in background. So
yeah, and that's a little bit more. That's another modification. It's not covered today, but yeah, that I have modifications up there for that, so that link stood out a little bit more. But I want to also go into. Let me do another search here, and that was, we have a service called Mango.
Mango Languages.
Mango Languages. And I have keywords for, like, if you search for French or Spanish or Chinese. I didn't put in every language in there, but if you search for those languages, it'll also come up on the results. This one's a little bit different because the content includes specifics for specific libraries in our group, because they have their own sign-in panel.
Right. So you need to go to a separate page for those different libraries to sign in.
Right. So you can choose which library group that you're with, and it'll take you to the appropriate sign-in page.
That's cool. I like the drop down. I had never thought of doing that with this, because we have some services here that are available at some libraries, but not all libraries. And so that would be a way of adding these placards for those services just for certain spaces.
Right. Because you could be doing a search in the catalog and not necessarily logged in, and it's not going to know which library you're with. And right. So this is a good option for something of that nature. So we're going to play with this in the koha-US demo website. And there are a couple sections for this. First, we're going to start off with some CSS. I have some CSS I'm going to plug in here first. This just defines some layout. This will show the light yellow background in my example, and the border, and give it a little bit of a radius and a minimum height, and lay it out so that it's in two sections. It's got a left section and a right section. The left section will be floating to the left, and the right section will be next to it. So it'll lay it out nicely.
Okay.
I defined a class for the cell that it's in, because I don't know if you noticed, I took that cell out. Depending on where you place it, it might land, if you decide, oh, it's going to be on the third result, it's not going to be on the second result, or it might be the first result. Wherever you place it, if it has that, if it lands on a cell that has the gray background, that would show behind it. And so I just said, I don't want anything to show behind it.
Okay, that makes sense, because that way, yeah.
So that's pretty much all there is to the CSS. I'm going to be tweaking this a little bit because, well, I'll go ahead and show it. I have another service on here, and I have to tweak this.
Well, I noticed Mango's got the outline is broken in the upper left.
Yeah, there's
and
still
that might be a symptom of the same problem you were showing me.
Yeah. So I need to tweak it so that it will properly size the image to fit in there. Right. So I'm still getting some of the image settings down on this, and by the time that this video posts, hopefully I'll have that portion fixed in there. So the CSS will be slightly different, but it gives you the gist of what we're doing with that CSS. All right. So I'm going to do a search in the demo site. We have plenty of results, but we don't have a placard yet. So I've got the CSS in place. Now I'm going to place the jQuery. And all of this, by the way, is going in the OPAC side. So this is the OPAC CSS that's in there, and the OPAC user JS. And here is the JS for this. Okay, so there's quite a bit here, but I'm going to break this down a little bit. And first of all, let me clear out, well, no, I'll leave it in there. The first thing that's in this JS that I want to point out is I have a section here that creates a new expression called iContains. This will allow you to do a search that is case insensitive, because we use a if I use contains, it's going to be case sensitive, and
right, it'll have to be an exact match.
Yes, and you won't always get the results that you want. So this makes it case insensitive. This was something that I found that really made this work a lot better. Something new here that you may not have seen, George, is I've added some variables, or a new variable called placard row. This defines where you want that result to show up. Okay. Before it was just hard coded in the code, and you had to know where to find that in order to put it in its place. I also changed it where it's using that placard row. We're using a before, whereas before I was using an after. Mm-hmm. Or yeah, I was using an after, and there's some complexities as to why I did that, but I just decided it was easier to code this with a before, so it's placing things before, especially like if you want it to be the first result. I wanted to make that
right. That's really a lot more complicated if it's a before or if it's an after, because there's nothing to put it after if you want it to be number one.
Exactly. And it's not likely somebody's going to be way down in the list in the results for that placard. So this was a safer path to go. So I added that, and I made it so that you can stick in the exact number that you wanted, and it'll calculate correctly where that placement is.
Okay.
So that variable is there. This is where you define where you want that result to show up. The next section is the variables that define the placards, what the placards are. And I've got 3 placards defined here, and they're in these brackets. It's actually built into an array. Mm-hmm. So it's searching through this array, and you have basically a small, it starts off the array with a mini array within it. So inside its own set of brackets here are the keywords that it's looking for, that it will, if you type in this keyword, this result will come up.
Okay.
So if you, for example, this is our mango example. If you put in the word language, French, Spanish, Chinese, mango, it will pop up this result. Let's see here. And after the keywords, so we have a comma, the next section defines the image that's going to show up on the left.
Mm-hmm.
So we're storing our image, in this case, on our consortium website. So this is where it's pulling that image. So it will take that logo and put it in that left panel. And then the next section, another comma, and the next section is the content that's going to go in the right side. So all of this information is just CSS or not CSS, it is HTML. And, I put in heading.
It creates that heading and that drop-down menu.
And the text and, the link. And in this case, it has the drop-down menu. So there's quite a bit to this particular one. Right. For the news section, here's our keywords for the news. And then we have our image for the archive, and then our linked text that goes in that on the right side. Mm-hmm. And then I had another one for Freegal. So those are our 3 placards that we had that I had created.
And in each one of those, you have a separate space there where you can define what keywords you're looking for.
Correct.
Perfect.
So again, the structure for this is keywords, and those are in the brackets. And then the next section, next piece of that array is the image, and then the third part of that array is the content that goes next to the image.
Right.
After that, after you've defined those, you have your placard logic and placement. So it's going through a loop. It's checking. It's looking for. Basically, it is looking for the breadcrumbs. It's using the breadcrumbs and checking to see if one of your keywords exists in a section that says you searched. If you searched exists, it's going to check that and see if your keyword exists in there. And if
so
that keyword,
here's a question that I know the answer to, but somebody that's watching that's new to Koha might not know this. What are the breadcrumbs?
Breadcrumbs. Okay. Oh, let's see here. Breadcrumbs are actually this line right up here.
Right.
So anytime that you visit a page, the breadcrumbs change. Breadcrumbs is basically a trail back to how you got there, basically.
Yeah. And the breadcrumbs will always have the search terms in them.
Yeah. So in this case, I searched for news. The breadcrumbs includes results of search for news.
Right.
So there's where it's checking to see if one of my keywords exists. And if it does, this is where it does the placement of that panel.
I've never really thought about it before, but if you used a keyword like results or home, that would those would probably be bad keywords to put in the placard search because they're going to be in a lot of breadcrumbs.
Yes, probably. It could mean that we need to refine the way it's searching the breadcrumbs as well. It's been a while. It's been a couple of years since I created this. Programmers are adding IDs all the time, and they may have made it a little simpler for us to to ID those breadcrumbs. So
right, to actually ID the search terms out of the breadcrumbs instead of looking at the whole breadcrumb result.
So that's the loop. It's keeping track of the placard count, so it knows how many times to go through the variable and the array, searching for those terms. So that is pretty much it. I'm going to save this and go back over to here now. Before, when I searched for news, I didn't get any results. I'll search for it again, and now I have,
there you go,
a result, and that placard comes up, and it comes up in the second place where we have defined it in our code. If I go up here and I say I want it in row 3, I can save that and search for that term again. If it's in row 3.
puts it in row 3, yeah.
Nice, straightforward.
So I'm using your older version of this code, and if you let me share my screen, I can show you where I'm using it.
Sure, go for it.
Let's see. Share screen 1. So, I've got the older version of it, so I don't have the variable. I do have the placard count. And I'm using it for we subscribe to Flipster for magazines. So if I do a search, and I've got a ton of keywords in here, because essentially I use the title of every magazine we subscribe to with Flipster,
Yeah,
is in there. So if we do a search for Flipster, we'll get the placard will show up. And I've got them set to be the 3rd. I didn't have the variable that you have, so I've got it set to come up in the 3rd position, and then I've got it to come up again in the 9th position. Spots. I wanted, if people blew over it, I wanted it to pop up again. But it'll do if you do Flipster, or if the Atlantic Monthly is one of the titles that we have in Flipster. And so if we do a search for any individual title, it pops up as a placard too. And then I've also, we added recently the Hoopla app. We now have Hoopla integration in our system, but we haven't always had it. But if we do a search for Hoopla, that's the other placard that I've got. Comes up as Hoopla. And it takes you straight to the Hoopla site. So we're doing it just for different things. We don't have the nice magazine subscription database that you guys have, but I think it adds a lot to the catalog to be able to remind people. The Hoopla message pops up when anybody looks for ebook or audiobook, or any of those terms that you kind of broadly associate with Hoopla. But having the ability to put it in there, we have a ton of libraries with a ton of magazines. And so if you do a search for something like Real Simple, you might get a lot of results, because a lot of libraries are cataloging their magazines differently, and they're generally cataloging them on separate records. So the Real Simple link for Flipster, I do have a record in there that's just a link out to the Flipster Real Simple that we own, but it might be the 4th or 5th one down. But this way, if you do a search for something like Real Simple, there'll always be that result with the placard in space number 3 and space number 9. So I think it helps identify this.
Repeated the placard.
Yeah, I kind of felt like, just having it once, there's 20, we have our system set up for 20 results. And if it's number 2 and you just scroll by real quick, you might miss it. Or if it's number 3 is what I've got it at. And so I thought if I repeated it number 9, then they'll have 2 chances to see it without it being, I wouldn't want it in there. Every other one would be too much, but, having it a couple of times, or, having it be like, you get one result and then you get 19 placards. and then you got to go to the next page. That, you know, there's a bunch of different ways you can do it, but I didn't want it to be overwhelming, but I wanted it to show up more than once. So,
well, excellent. So, great couple of examples of how the placards are being used and how you can modify it to fit your own needs. I like what you've done with it. I'm going to get that code cleaned up to fit the graphic a little bit better and get that on the wiki, and we will have that for you. And
when does this video go online?
This will go online April 1st.
April Fool's Day. That's crazy.
Okay, well.
And everybody remember, read Star Trek Final Frontier. It's not a very good book.
With that said, we will see you in a couple weeks.
Nanu nanu.